The year was 2157, and Earth had finally reached for the stars. After decades of hard work and sacrifice, humanity launched its first deep space exploration fleet. Among the many ships that left Earth's orbit that year, one vessel stood out. It was called the Eternal Dawn, and it carried with it the hopes and dreams of every person on the blue planet below. Commander Teo Kim stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn, watching Earth grow smaller through the massive viewing window. His face was calm and serious, but inside, his heart was racing with excitement and worry. As the leader of humanity's first military deep space mission, he carried a weight that few people could understand. He was not just commanding a ship, he was representing the entire human race to unknown civilizations among the stars. Beside him stood Dr. Haewon Park, a brilliant linguist with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. She had spent years preparing for this moment, studying every piece of alien communication data that humanity's scientists had managed to collect over the past century. Her job was simple, but incredibly important. If humanity met intelligent life among the stars, she would be the first to speak to them. She would be humanity's voice to the cosmos. "How are you feeling, Commander?" Dr. Park asked, not taking her eyes off the vast darkness of space before them. Teo smiled slightly. "Nervous, excited. A little afraid, if I am honest," he replied. "That makes two of us," Park said, and they both laughed quietly. 3 months into their journey, the Eternal Dawn reached Station Kepler 7, a human outpost built in orbit around a distant star. The station was small but modern, filled with scientists and engineers working to understand the universe. As soon as the ship docked, Teo received an urgent message through the station's communication system. A signal had been detected, not from humans, from something else. The message came from far away, from a part of space that humanity had never explored. The signal was complex and powerful, containing advanced mathematics and images. The scientists at the station worked around the clock to decode it. What they found shocked everyone. There was intelligent life out there, not just one civilization, but many, and they were organized. They were part of something called the Galactic Concil. Meanwhile, on a station controlled by the Council, an alien called Counselor Varix received important news. Varix was a Zendorian, a being made of crystalline material that caught and reflected light in beautiful, terrible ways. Varix had served on the Galactic Council for over 3,000 years, and in all that time, the Council had grown comfortable with its power. A probe had detected something unexpected in a region of space that the Council considered empty and worthless. There was a small planet called Earth, and it had developed space travel. Varix read the report with growing amusement. The species was called human. They were biological creatures, soft and fragile, with lifespans of less than a century. They had only just learned to leave their home planet. They were children playing with fire, and Varix found it almost funny. Varix called a meeting of the Galactic Council. The 11 members gathered in a great chamber, each one representing an ancient civilization with power and knowledge beyond human understanding. There was the Vexthari, a race of tall, intelligent beings who valued resources and profit above all else. There was the Luminari, peaceful creatures of light and wisdom who had existed for over 10,000 years. There were others too, each one powerful, each one ancient. "The humans are developing weapons," Varix announced to the Council, a slight vibration in his crystalline voice that showed he found humor in the situation. "They are beginning to reach for the stars. This is interesting, but it is also a danger. They are unpredictable. Their biology makes them emotional and unreasonable. We should handle this problem quickly before they become too bold." The Council members looked at each other. Some nodded in agreement. Others said nothing. They were comfortable. They were powerful. Nothing in the galaxy had challenged them in thousands of years. The idea that a young primitive species could be any real threat seemed impossible. I propose a simple solution, Varix continued. We send a small fleet to their planet. We show them our power. We tell them to stop their weapons program and submit to the Council's authority. If they refuse, we remove them from the game. This will take perhaps one of their months. It will be quick and clean. The vote was called. One by one, the Council members agreed. A pacification fleet would be sent to Earth. It would be a small force, because no one thought a large force was necessary. Humans were primitive. They were weak. They had only just learned to leave their planet. How could they possibly stand against beings and machines that had been perfecting warfare for thousands of years? Back on Earth, the news was delivered through official channels. A message arrived at the United Nations headquarters in New Geneva. It came from the Galactic Concil, and it was clear and simple. Humanity was given 3 months to surrender all weapons and accept Council rule, or face destruction. The message was met with fear and panic. World governments argued and fought. Some wanted to surrender immediately, others wanted to hide. But there was one man who thought differently. Commander Tayo Kim was brought to Earth to help with the crisis. He was a soldier, a strategist, and a man who believed that humans could accomplish anything if they worked together and refused to give up. "We have another option," he told the world leaders gathered in emergency session. "We can prepare. We can fight. We can show the Council that humanity is not as weak as they think." "Fight them?" one leader asked in disbelief. "They have the power to destroy our planet with a single weapon. What could we possibly do against such power?" Teo leaned forward, his eyes burning with determination. "We have something they have forgotten how to use. We have the human spirit. We have the ability to think in new ways, to adapt, to never surrender. We are young. Yes. We are small. Yes. But if we work as one people, if we refuse to break, then we have a chance. Not to win easily, maybe not to win at all, but we have a chance. And that is more than we have if we give up without fighting." The room was silent. Then, slowly, the leaders began to nod. The race to prepare Earth's defenses had begun. The Galactic Council did not know it yet, but they had made a terrible mistake. They had attacked not a weak and helpless species, but a species that, when faced with impossible odds, would fight harder than anything they had ever encountered before. And that fight would change the galaxy forever. 6 months had passed since the Galactic Council delivered its ultimatum. Earth had changed. Every nation, every city, every person had been brought together by a simple message from Commander Teo Kim: survive together or die alone. Teo sat in an underground bunker hidden deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Maps and screens covered every wall, showing the status of Earth's defenses. Red dots marked weapon positions. Blue lines showed communication networks. Green symbols represented the scattered human military forces. It was not much compared to what was coming, but it was something, and it had been built from nothing in just half a year. Beside him, Lieutenant Jiwoo Kang was working on something that should have been impossible. Jiwoo was a weapons engineer, only 30 years old, but his mind worked in ways that made experienced scientists seem slow. He had been born poor, in a small city, and had taught himself advanced physics and mathematics using old books and internet resources. Now, he was humanity's best hope. "We have made progress," Jiwoo said, showing Teo a blueprint on a glowing screen. "I have studied the Council's transmission data from their message. Their ships use a specific type of energy frequency. I have designed something that might disrupt that frequency. It will not destroy their ships, but it could damage their shields and disable some systems." "How long until we can build it?" Teo asked. 3 months. Maybe less if we work without sleeping," Jiwoo replied with a tired smile. In another part of the bunker, Dr. Haewon Park was doing her own important work. She had been studying the Council's communications patterns, not just the words, but the ways they spoke to each other. She had noticed something fascinating. The council was not united. There were disagreements. There were different groups with different goals. She had found records of old arguments between the Zendorians and the Luminari. The Vexithari seemed to care only about money and resources. There were other species who seemed more cautious, more thoughtful. If she could understand these divisions, maybe, just maybe, she could use them. "I need to contact them," she told Teo one day. "I need to speak to them before the fleet arrives. I need to plant seeds of doubt in their minds." "That is very dangerous," Teo said. "If you anger them, they may attack sooner." "If we do nothing, they will attack anyway," Park replied. "But if I can make them think, if I can make them question whether attacking us is really a good idea, then we buy more time. And time is all we need." Teo thought about this for a long moment. Then he nodded. Dr. Park drafted a message to the Galactic Concil. It was carefully written, respectful but confident. It asked for negotiations. It did not beg. It did not threaten. It simply said that humans wanted to talk before fighting, and that perhaps the Council might want to understand humanity better before deciding its fate. She sent the message into the vastness of space and waited. While the preparations continued on Earth, another person was becoming important to humanity's survival. Her name was Dr. Su-Jin Han, and she was a quantum physicist. Su-Jin had always been fascinated by the way energy moved and changed. She had spent years studying theoretical shields and protection systems based on Council transmissions. Most scientists said what she was trying to do was impossible. The Council's shields were thousands of years more advanced than human technology. How could humans possibly create something even close to that level? But Su-Jin had a different idea. She did not try to copy the Council's shields. Instead, she studied the patterns of Council energy signatures in their broadcasts and transmissions. She noticed something interesting. The Council used the same basic frequencies again and again. They had become so comfortable with their technology that they never changed it. They never needed to. If we can create a shield that works against these specific frequencies, she explained to a team of scientists in a laboratory hidden under the Canadian Arctic, then we have a chance. We will not match their power, but we can be prepared for what they send. The scientists worked around the clock. Computers ran calculations. Experiments were conducted in secret. Slowly, the first human shield generator began to take shape. It was crude compared to what the Council used, but it would work. Back in the command bunker, Teo received a message from the Council's response to Park's communication attempt. The Council had answered. They wanted a negotiation, but not because they feared humanity. They wanted to see the species they were about to destroy. They wanted to understand what made these small, fragile creatures bold enough to ask for negotiations when they had no power to defend themselves. "This is good," Haywan Park said when she read the message. "They are curious. That means they are thinking. They are not just acting on pure aggression. That is our advantage." "What will you tell them?" Teo asked. "The truth," Park replied. "That humanity does not want war, that we want peace, that we will work with the Council if given the chance, but also, I will let them know that we will not simply disappear, that we will defend ourselves. That we are not as weak as they think." Teo placed his hand on her shoulder. "Then tell them well." As the preparation reached its final stages, Teo brought together a group of military officers and scientists. He had a plan, and it was dangerous. It would require perfect timing. It would require every human working together. It would require sacrifices. But it was the only plan they had. "When the Council's fleet arrives," he told them, "we will not fight them immediately. We will hide. We will wait. And when the moment is right, we will strike with everything we have. We will not try to match them in power, but in surprise and speed. We will make them question whether attacking us was worth the cost." The officers nodded. they understood. They were all terrified, but they were also determined. They had families on Earth. They had friends. They had a home worth fighting for. Dr. Park sent another message to the Council, asking for negotiations when they arrived. She did not mention human defenses. She did not mention weapons. She only asked for the chance to talk, face to face, before anything else happened. The Council agreed, with some hesitation. They had never negotiated with a species they had already decided to pacify, but they were intrigued by humanity. They were curious about these small creatures that had the courage to speak to them as equals. The final night before the Council's fleet was due to arrive, Earth was quiet. Billions of humans waited in their homes, in bunkers, in underground cities. Some prayed, some held their families close, some simply looked up at the sky and wondered if they would see another dawn. But in the command bunker, Tae-Oh Kim, Ji-Woo Kang, Haiwan Park, and Soo-Jin Han stood together, looking at the screens that would soon show the arrival of the Galactic Council's fleet. "We are ready," Tae-Oh said simply. The others nodded. They had done everything they could. Now it was time to see if it would be enough. Tomorrow, the fate of humanity would be decided. But tonight, in the depths of the Earth, humans were still preparing, still fighting, still refusing to give up. The sky above Earth changed forever on a clear morning in November. The first sign was a darkness that spread across the stars, as if someone had turned off the lights of the universe one by one. Then the ships appeared. 97 vessels, each one larger than a mountain, took position around Earth in perfect military formation. They were works of art and weapons combined, their hulls smooth and strange, surfaces that reflected light in ways that seemed to bend the laws of physics. To the humans watching from the surface, it was the most beautiful and terrifying thing they had ever seen. Captain Min-Ho Lee sat in the hidden command vessel, a small ship tucked deep inside the asteroid belt. Around him were monitors, showing every angle of Earth and the Council fleet. His hands were steady, his eyes sharp, but his heart was pounding hard in his chest. He was a pilot and a military officer, trained to handle pressure, but nothing could have truly prepared him for this moment. "All human forces are in position," his communications officer reported. "Ground defenses are online. Shield generators are ready. The Eternal Dawn and all escort vessels are hidden and waiting for your signal." Min-Ho nodded, but said nothing. He was waiting for the Council's next move. In the largest Council ship, a massive vessel that served as both transport and command center, Counselor Varix looked down at Earth with satisfaction. The planet was beautiful in its own primitive way, green and blue, full of life and potential. Soon, it would belong to the Council, and humanity would be just another subject species, their ambitions controlled and limited. Varix sent out a transmission, and it reached every human on Earth at the same moment. The message was delivered in 100 languages, perfectly translated, perfectly clear. "I am Counselor Varix of the Galactic Council. You have 1 hour to surrender all weapons and accept Council authority. If you refuse, we will destroy your planet and harvest what remains. This offer is final." The message ended with a simple timer, counting down from 60 minutes. In the command bunker, Tae-Oh watched the timer with cold focus. 59 minutes remaining. "Send the response now," he ordered. Dr. Haiwan Park's message went out immediately. She had prepared it days before, knowing this moment would come. Her words were carefully chosen, each one designed to appeal to different members of the Council. For the Luminari, she spoke of honor and the chance to witness a young species fight for its survival. For the Vexthari, she spoke of potential and the possibility of humans as trading partners in the future. For others, she spoke of scientific discovery and the study of how a primitive species might adapt to galactic civilization. Most importantly, she asked for 72 hours of negotiation before any attacks began. 45 minutes remained on the timer when Varix received the response. He read it with visible anger. This was not how this was supposed to go. Humans should be begging for mercy, not negotiating. They should be surrendering, not asking for time. Varix prepared a response, ready to order an immediate strike, but before he could send it, something unexpected happened. The crystalline communication system of his flagship received another message. This one was from Keeper Moth, the Luminary representative on the council. The Luminary was an ancient being, made of pure light held together by something humans would not have understood. Keeper Moth had walked the galaxy for 10,000 years, and he had seen much. Before we destroy this species, should we not at least observe them? Keeper Moth's message said simply. It has been many years since anyone refused to submit to council authority. This is interesting. Other council members began to respond. The Vexthari representative, a being called Merchant Vor, sent a transmission suggesting that destroying potential business partners might not be the wisest choice. Another council member remained neutral, unwilling to support Varix's demand for immediate destruction. The vote was called, as council law required. For the first time in thousands of years, the vote was split. 7 members supported Varix's desire for immediate attack. 4 members agreed with Keeper Moth that observation was warranted. By the narrowest of margins, the humans had won their reprieve. 30 minutes remained on the timer when the council announced its decision. Humanity would be given 72 hours to negotiate. If no agreement was reached, the fleet would destroy Earth. In the command bunker, Teo allowed himself to breathe. "Get me Captain Minho," he ordered. The pilot's voice came through clear and calm. "I am here, Commander." "Hold your position," Teo said. "We have 3 days. Use them well." Over the next 72 hours, something remarkable happened. Dr. Haywan Park spoke directly with Keeper Moth and Merchant Vor, engaging in long discussions about humanity, about philosophy, about the nature of growth and strength. She was brilliant, speaking in ways that revealed human intelligence and adaptability. She told them stories of human history, of how a young species had overcome impossible challenges, had survived as individuals, and built civilizations together. In the asteroid belt, Captain Minho Lee watched the council fleet carefully. Ji Wu Kang had been right. The ships maintained rigid formation patterns, established by ancient protocols, never varying. They were prepared for enemies with advanced technology, but they were not prepared for creativity or surprise. As the 72 hours neared their end, Varix grew impatient. He demanded another vote, pushing for immediate destruction. But the other council members were thoughtful now. Even some who had initially supported him were starting to have doubts. In the final hours of negotiation, something changed. Councilor Varix issued a new ultimatum. Humanity had 6 hours to surrender, or the fleet would attack. This was final. No more negotiations. Dr. Park received the message. She had expected this. Varix would not accept any outcome except humanity's complete submission. But that was also when Teo made his final decision. "Captain Minho," he transmitted through secure channels. "It is time." "Understood," Minho replied, launching in 5 minutes. The Eternal Dawn and the escort vessels hidden in the asteroid belt came to life. Engines that had been silent for 72 hours roared back to power. The ships began to move, breaking from their hiding places, heading toward the Council fleet. "They are attacking," the Council's sensors reported. Varix smiled. Finally. Now he could destroy these foolish creatures. But as the human ships moved closer, something unexpected happened. The communication array of Varix's own ship went dark. Then the shields of 3 other Council vessels flickered and failed, damaged by precisely targeted energy bursts from Jiwoo Kang's experimental weapons. The Galactic Council had never faced real resistance before. They had never fought a true battle, and they had no idea what was about to happen next. On the Council's command bridge, sensors lit up in chaos. Warnings sounded. Officers shouted orders to return fire. But the humans were not where they expected them to be. They had anticipated the Council's defensive strategies and moved accordingly. "They are more capable than we thought," Keeper Moth observed, watching the battle unfold with what might have been the alien equivalent of respect. Captain Min-Ho Lee in the Bridge of the Eternal Dawn kept one eye on his weapons systems and another on the Council fleet formation. He had trained for this moment his entire life, and now it was real. He was no longer training. He was no longer preparing. He was fighting for Earth. The initial strike lasted only 8 minutes, but in those 8 minutes, everything changed. 4 Council ships suffered serious damage. The communication array of Varrix's command vessel was destroyed, forcing the Zendorian leader to reorganize his command structure. Most importantly, the humans had proven they could hurt the Council. They were not simply prey, waiting to be destroyed. Captain Min-Ho Lee kept the Eternal Dawn moving fast, weaving through the asteroid field with skills honed by years of practice. Behind him, human escort vessels launched secondary weapons. Electromagnetic pulses designed by Jiwoo Kang to disrupt Council ship systems. Some worked perfectly, some failed, but enough succeeded to create chaos. Then the Council responded in full force. The retaliation was overwhelming. Hundreds of weapons lit up the space around Earth, creating a light show of destruction that could have been seen from the surface with the naked eye. The human ships scattered, diving deeper into the asteroid field, using rock and debris as cover. One escort vessel was hit directly, and it exploded in a ball of light. 37 humans died in that instant. Tae-Oh Kim watched it happen on the monitors in the command bunker. His jaw tightened, but he did not look away. He had known this would happen. He had known humans would die, but they would not die for nothing, not if he could help it. "Ground defenses, prepare for orbital strike," he commanded. On Earth's surface, hidden weapon installations positioned across every continent activated. They were not as powerful as the Council weapons, not even close. But they were something. As the Council fleet pressed its attack, human missiles and laser systems fired upward, adding their voice to the battle. A Council vessel received a direct hit on its power core. The weapon was not strong enough to destroy the ship, but it was strong enough to cripple it. The massive vessel began to fall toward Earth, its engines struggling to maintain altitude. In the asteroid belt, Captain Min-Ho Lee saw the crippled ship and knew what he had to do. He pushed the Eternal Dawn hard, accelerating toward the falling vessel, preparing to strike at its most vulnerable points. "This is a suicide run," his weapons officer said, not as a question, but as a statement of fact. "Yes," Min-Ho replied simply. "But if we do this right, it will be worth it." He fired every weapon he had, concentrating the attack on the Council ship's damaged section. The vessel's shields were failing, overwhelmed by repeated strikes. For a moment, it looked like the Eternal Dawn might succeed in destroying a Council warship entirely. But then the Council adapted. That was when Varrix made his most important decision. He ordered the fleet to concentrate on destroying the human home planet first, before dealing with the individual ships. If he could not have Earth as a subject world, he would have it as a memorial to his power. The orbital bombardment began. The first strike hit North America, destroying a city in seconds. The second strike hit the Pacific Ocean, creating a tsunami that threatened coastal populations. The third strike hit Europe, fourth, fifth, sixth. In the command bunker, Tae-Oh watched his world burn. Billions of humans were dying, and he had to keep watching, keep fighting, keep commanding, because if he stopped, more would die. "Commander," Haywan Park's voice came through the communication system. I have something. Keeper Moth wants to talk to you, directly, in person, through secure transmission. Teo agreed immediately. The holographic image of the Luminary Council member appeared before him, a being of pure light and ancient wisdom, towering despite being made of energy instead of matter. Your species fights with honor, Keeper Moth said, his voice like music. You do not surrender. You do not abandon your world. You struggle and suffer and refuse to break. We are losing, Teo replied. We are dying. But yes, we will not surrender. This is rare in the galaxy, Keeper Moth continued. Most species, when faced with our power, accept their fate. But you are different. I have called for a ceasefire vote. I believe Merchant Vor will support it. Even some of the neutral council members are moved by your resistance. Varix will resist, but he no longer controls the vote. Then why are they still bombing us? Teo asked, his voice bitter. Because Varix still commands this fleet, Keeper Moth replied, and he is angry, but his time of power is ending. Hold on, human leader. Hold on just a little longer. The luminary disappeared, and Teo returned his attention to the battle. On the surface and in space, humans were dying. But they were also fighting back. Underground cities opened their weapon systems. Soldiers that had hidden deep within the Earth came out to defend their cities. In orbit, Captain Min-Ho Lee managed to cripple 2 more Council vessels before his own ship took a critical hit. The Eternal Dawn's power systems failed. Alarms screamed. Min-Ho worked desperately to keep the vessel operational, but it was dying. Through the viewport, he could see the Council fleet bearing down on him. This was the end. Then something unexpected happened. Several Council ships moved to protect the Eternal Dawn, placing themselves between the human vessel and Varix's attacking forces. The shift in the battle was dramatic and sudden. The Council was no longer acting as a unified force. Half the fleet was fighting the other half. In the asteroid belt, this moment of chaos was exactly what Teo needed. He sent a final command to Captain Min-Ho. Get your ship to Earth, now. Min-Ho, moving purely on instinct and training, used the last of his ship's power to initiate a descent toward Earth's atmosphere. It was a desperate move. The ship was damaged. The heat of re-entry could destroy it. But he had his orders, and those orders came from Commander Teo Kim. The Eternal Dawn entered Earth's upper atmosphere, burning with the friction of speed and damage, a shooting star in reverse. It landed in a remote area of South America, where human rescue teams were waiting. Min-Ho crawled out of the wreckage, alive but barely, and was immediately carried to the nearest medical facility. In the space above Earth, the battle reached its climax. The Council fleet was now divided, with some ships following Varix's orders to destroy humanity and others following Keeper Moth's call for peace. The situation was chaos. Ships fired on each other. Smaller battles erupted across the orbital space, and through it all, the humans fought on. Then finally, the vote came. 4 members supported Keeper Moth's ceasefire. 3 members remained neutral. Only Varix and 2 others voted to continue the attack. The motion passed. The ceasefire was ordered. One by one, the Council ships that had been attacking Earth stopped firing. The bombardment ended. The killing stopped. Teo Kim, sitting in the command bunker, looked at the monitors showing the damage to Earth. Entire cities were gone. Tens of millions were dead. The blue planet had been scarred forever, but it still existed, and its people still lived. He allowed himself to cry then, just for a moment. For all the humans who had died. For all the soldiers who had given everything. For a world that had suffered but survived. On the surface, survivors crawled out of their hiding places. They looked at the sky and saw not the Council's weapons, but something new. They saw the chance to keep living. They saw a future, however uncertain, still ahead of them. The battle for Earth had ended. Now the real negotiation would begin. The ceasefire lasted exactly 72 hours. During that time, the Galactic Council held the most important vote in its 3,000-year history. At stake was not just humanity's fate, but the very structure of the Council itself. Councillor Varix demanded that the vote be called immediately. He insisted that the Council's authority had been challenged and had to be re-established through force. He argued that allowing humanity to survive and resist would send a message to every subject species in the galaxy that rebellion was possible, that the Council was not all-powerful. But Keeper Moth stood against him. The ancient Luminari spoke of honor, of respect earned through struggle, of strength that came not from breaking others but from recognizing their potential. He told the Council that in his 10,000 years of existence, he had never seen a species display such courage, such willingness to die rather than surrender. The humans did not fight because they thought they could win, Keeper Moth said, his voice filling the council chamber. They fought because they refused to accept a fate chosen for them by others. This is not weakness, this is strength, and it deserves respect. Merchant Vor, the Vexthari representative, presented a different argument. From a purely practical standpoint, the humans have shown themselves to be valuable. They are creative. They are resourceful. They adapt quickly to new situations. As a subject species, they might be useful. As destroyed species, they are worthless. I vote to allow them to live. One by one, the council members spoke. Some supported Varix. Some supported Keeper Moth. Some were uncertain, caught between tradition and pragmatism. When the final vote was called, the result was decisive. 7 members voted to recognize humanity as a legitimate species worthy of negotiation. 4 members, led by Varix, voted against. Humanity had survived, not through superior strength, but through the respect of those who had fought against them. On Earth, the news spread like wildfire. Humans gathered in the streets, in plazas, in homes, celebrating the fact that they would not be destroyed. They had fought and lost in many ways. Entire cities were gone. Millions were dead. But they had bought time. They had bought a future. Commander Tae-O Kim was brought to the Council's flagship for direct negotiations. He traveled in a small shuttle, unarmed except for his words and his presence. As he walked into the council chamber, he was the first human to ever stand before the Galactic Council as an equal, not as a subject. "I am Tae-O Kim, military commander of Earth," he said simply, his voice steady and strong. "My people have suffered greatly in the past weeks. We have lost much, but we have not lost ourselves. We have not surrendered our freedom, and we will not." Varix stepped forward, his crystalline body glowing with anger. "You are still a primitive species. You fought with desperation, not with true strength. The Council made a mistake in allowing you to survive." "Perhaps," Tae-O replied, meeting the alien's gaze directly. "But your weapons could have destroyed us in moments if you had truly wanted to. Instead, your people asked for negotiation. Your people questioned the order to attack. Your fleet was divided because some of you could not bring yourselves to destroy those who refused to surrender without a fight." He paused, looking at each council member in turn. "You attacked us because you thought we were weak. We fought because we knew that we would rather die free than live as slaves. If that is not strength, then the word has no meaning." The chamber was silent. Even Varix had no immediate response. Then Keeper Moth spoke. "The human speaks truth. The vote will proceed. Humanity will be recognized as a provisional member of the Galactic Council, with rights to territorial space and technological exchange. This is the decision of the Council." The vote was called, and it passed. Varix and his 2 supporters abstained, but did not actively oppose it. The decision was made. Earth would be part of the galactic civilization. Dr. Hae-Wan Park was brought to the council chamber moments later. She stood beside Teo Kim, representing the diplomatic and scientific aspects of humanity. She had prepared words for this moment, words that would explain humanity's hopes and dreams, words that would establish humanity as a species worth knowing. "Thank you for recognizing us," she said, her voice calm and respectful. "We do not come to the galactic community as superior or inferior. We come as equals who have fought for our place. We have much to learn from you, and I believe that you will find we have something to teach as well. Humanity has survived impossible odds not through superior technology, but through unity, creativity, and the refusal to accept that our fate must be decided by others. I hope the Galactic Council will remember this, and will think carefully before deciding the future of any species based solely on power and technology." When she finished, even some of the council members who had opposed recognizing humanity acknowledged the strength in her words. Over the next weeks, the terms of humanity's admission were established. Earth would be given access to certain council technologies. In exchange, humanity would agree not to develop weapons specifically designed to harm other council members. A treaty was drafted, full of complicated clauses and conditions, but the essential message was simple. Humanity had earned the right to exist as a free species among the stars. Captain Min-Ho Lee, recovered from his injuries and made a hero of all humanity, stood at the window of the new human embassy in the galactic station, looking out at the countless alien ships coming and going. A month ago, these beings had tried to destroy him and everything he loved. Now they passed by as travelers, as traders, as fellow members of the galactic community. "Strange, is it not?" a voice said behind him. Min-Ho turned to see Keeper Moth in his pure light form, hovering near the window. "Very strange," Min-Ho agreed. "Your Commander Kim is a remarkable being," Keeper Moth continued. "He did not win by becoming stronger than us. He won by showing us something we had forgotten. That strength exists in many forms. That a species young and small and fragile can still have value, still have dignity, still have worth." "Will the others remember this?" Min-Ho asked. "Will they treat us with respect, or will they just wait for an opportunity to conquer us when our guard is down?" "Some will remember," Keeper Moth replied. "Others will forget. That is the way of all civilizations. But you have sent a message that echoes through the galaxy. You have shown that the Galactic Council is not invincible. You have proven that those who refuse to surrender can earn respect. That message will stay with many for a very long time." Back on Earth, life was changing. Human scientists were studying Council technology with wonder and excitement. Engineers were building new ships, learning new ways to defend and explore. Artists were making artwork that blended human creativity with alien designs. Musicians were composing pieces that combined human instruments with the sounds of other civilizations. But most importantly, humans were healing. Rebuilt cities rose from the ruins of the old ones. The dead were honored and remembered. Survivors told their stories, so that future generations would know what sacrifice had been made to win humanity's freedom. Teo Kim stood in a new city, watching humans work side by side with construction robots, watching children play safely under a blue sky that would not rain fire. He thought about the millions who had died in the battle. He thought about the courage they had shown. He thought about the future they had fought for. Dr. Haewon Park walked beside him, and together they looked at the memorial that was being built. It would have the names of every human who had died in the conflict with the Galactic Council. It would be a reminder forever of the cost of freedom. "We did it," Park said simply. "No," Teo replied, shaking his head. "Our people did it, all of them, every soldier, every civilian, every person who refused to surrender. That is why we won." And as the sun set on Earth, Painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, the humans who had survived looked up at the stars and saw not fear, but possibility. They had fought against impossible odds. They had lost much. But they had kept their freedom. They had shown the galaxy that humanity was not a species to be controlled or dismissed. They were a species to be respected.